sorry, we were running. Why isn't parking included in our tuition?
The one major reason why it is not, and you will find that it is not in most universities in the country, especially public universities, is because not everybody drives a car. And so it is a user fee. And there are a number of things like that. Residence halls are like that. Food service is like that. And parking is like that. Some students take the train to work. Some students bike to work, to the university, I mean. So not everybody wants to park the car. Some students share and do all kinds of other things. So that's the primary reason. It's what we call an auxiliary service. What you're really here for is not to park. You're really here to get an education. And so the tuition basically pays for the core education. And then other fees, like parking fees, deal with what are known throughout higher education as auxiliary services, things that some students take advantage of.
Okay. So I understand that not all students park, but not all students use the gym, which is included into our tuition. Students are allowed to opt out of meal plan. So students are opt out of a lot of things on campus. So I don't understand why there's not a system, which I was told that there was a system in the past where it was included in our tuition, but it was taken away for some reason. I don't know why. Someone working in financial aid actually told me this, that the parking was included in tuition and they took it out. I just don't understand how that kind of makes any sense, because not everyone uses the rec center, as I said, not everyone eats on campus, so why are those things included? Why
Well,
the rec
eating
center
is
included?
not included.
The rec center is included.
The rec center is included, yes, because we consider that to be a core facility for all students. And I don't know when parking was ever included in tuition. Do you have any? It must have been, if it ever was, it must have been a very, very long time ago. And it very well may have been, 30 or 40 or 50 years ago. I don't know, I'd have to check. But in living memory, it has never been included in tuition. And I don't think you will find that so on any campus. Look at any other campus in northern New Jersey. Our parking practices are just like everyone else's, basically.
I just had a question. I agree with you. I think that parking is auxiliary and to charge tuition would be to make everyone pay for it, even though not everyone uses it. But I do feel like the Red Hawk Deck's prices for parking are exorbitant compared to most other parking garages, and it seems a bit much compared to the transit deck or really any other place in the world.
It's true. The Red Hawk Deck is the most expensive parking on campus. There's a full range of parking options that students can use, from the least expensive, which is ward parking, to the most expensive, which is the Red Hawk Deck. Even though it's the most expensive, it's the one that sells out first, I might say, because it's so close to the center of campus. But our parking fees are not exorbitant compared to other campuses. They are below the average of other campuses, just about at the average, slightly under the average. If you park in the deck at NJIT or Rutgers Newark, you could be paying $800, which is about double what it is here.
My point was...
So I solved this, but you should have that to you. All right. Do you want to make it quick?
Yeah, this is quick. My point was really that it was for the permit, which I think is like $300 a semester.
The one is $250 or $350, or the for
Well,
resident students, it's about $350 they pay, and for commuters, about $250.
My point was more that it's $15 a night, or I think. It's pretty, but the daily price is a bit much, it seems, for anyone who wants to visit or come to this campus. I mean, the Red Hawk Deck is basically off limits. It's pretty high price. That is just my opinion.
Yeah. The parking decks, one of the things about auxiliary services, I need water anywhere. Thanks, Dan. The thing about parking services on this campus and on pretty much every other campus, like this one, is we try and have it pay for itself, because we don't want to take away from the instructional budget for parking. So the fees are kind of geared just to pay for the buildings. They don't quite, we still have to subsidize it some, but that's kind of how they're priced. And, you know, it's not in New Jersey, it's expensive, everything is expensive here.
What do you mean by pay for the buildings, like parking structures or the actual buildings on campus?
I'm not sure.
You said that the fees pay for the buildings?
The parking facilities, not just the parking decks, but the parking lots for the maintaining of them, the striping of them, and all of that, all the parking services. The parking fee pays for the parking, like the residence fees, the residence hall fees pay for the residence halls. Only those fees pay for those things, like the food service fees pays for the food.
I understand that the parking is outsourced,
Yes,
and I also understand that there was a recent switch in the companies for the outsource.
correct.
Why was there a switch?
There was a switch because under state law, we are required to rebid our contracts every certain number of years. I think it's every 5 years or so. So that, oh, thanks. Thank you. 1 minute.
Well, we only have about 3
All right, well, I just took a few seconds for the water. By state law, we're required to rebid those contracts. So it was just a normal rebidding of the contract, and we awarded the contract to the firm that proposed the least expensive and best bid.
Can I ask least expensive for whom?
If it's least expensive for the university, it's least expensive for the students, because the parking is ultimately paid through the parking fees. So if it's a higher price bid, then the fees have to be higher to pay. So least expensive was important, but you have to make sure they can sort of do the job.
And then, would you know the cause for the price increases?
The cause for the price increases were the increases in the maintenance of the facilities.
Okay. And lastly, on this issue, there seems to be consensus on from the student perspective that this new company seems to feed off of the commuters. Do you have a comment on that?
I don't know what it means.
Mind if I expand on that?
Yes, for sure.
The idea that a company that runs parking enters every semester or year with a large amount of debt, and that means they're financially incentivized to take tickets, to issue tickets, and to draw money out of the people who drive cars, namely the commuters. So that's where we're coming from when we say that there's some feeling that it sort of draws off, it squeezes commuters.
I don't believe they get any of the ticket revenue at all. And the reason they get, no, I'm right about that. They don't get any of the ticket revenue. The ticket revenue is part of the regular budget for parking. We know that there are going to be people who violate the parking rules, and we know we're going to issue tickets and so forth. And the reason we have tickets on campus is because there is the only way that we can keep people abiding by the parking rules. You didn't have to pay a ticket, you would park wherever you wanted. And frankly, the people who drive on campus, you want everybody else to be abiding by the rules, because if they're not abiding by the rules, then you can't get around the campus, you can't park where you were going to park, and it becomes chaos. So people have to abide by the parking rules.
Okay.
But it's got nothing to do with the contractor.
Does everyone agree to move on?
Yes.
Yes.
Can we
My
extend
friend
one
has
question?
wants to
was just curious, it's kind of a quick question. How much authority does the, say, the Board of Trustees or whoever confirms the bid have over the policies the company sets? For instance, the parking permits are now set to expire in May instead of lasting the entire academic year up till August, and that creates a problem for some students who take summer classes.
It's the university that sets the policies. And let me say that if there are issues that you want to address about parking, it is perfectly acceptable to express your views and to address those issues. There is a way to do it. There have been student committees that have met with the person who heads up the parking organization, and if you would like to put together a group of people to talk about certain kinds of parking issues, that is welcome all the time, because frankly, the parking is like everything else. I know it seems like somebody's doing something to you, but the parking really is for you. It's to enable students to be able to come to the campus, faculty to come to the campus, the community when we have events to come to the campus, to be able to park in a reasonable way, be able to use the campus. So if you think you have good ideas about how we could be doing this better, it is perfectly fine to suggest those ideas. And if you are in touch with Vice President Pennington's office, she can help you get that group to the right people. We have groups that talk about dining services, groups of students that do that, so.
I apologize, we need to.
I beg your pardon?
I apologize, we need to move to the next.
Okay.
Who would like to address?
My name is Mr. McFarlane. I'm a sophomore transfer at study history. My question.
Where'd you transfer from?
I was in the Navy,
Uh-huh.
and I was originally in New Paltz, upstate New York.
Good.
My question is, in your personal opinion, do you think that education should be a human right? And also, do you think that higher education should be a free public service?
That's an interesting question. In the United States and in most of the world, higher education is not a right. In the United States, K-12 education is a right. It is a right. Every child is guaranteed an education from K, not pre-K, and that's a battle, but K through 12, guaranteed a free education. In this country, higher education has always been presumed to be a privilege. And it was a privilege that had to be earned, and in most cases, paid for. And it was a privilege that was open to a very small portion of the population until relatively recently in the country's history. So ultimately, do I wish personally that higher education, public higher education, was provided free to all the students who had earned a right to it? And by earned a right to it, I mean worked in high school, prepared themselves academically to participate in higher education? Yeah, I think that would be neat. I do. I think that would be terrific. And for a long time, the City University of New York was free, but not for, again, many, many decades. It's a long time since that happened. I think it changed back in the 60s. So that's about 50 years ago, half a century ago, when I was around. Actually, you were not. But I think it would be good, but it is not likely to happen here. It is not likely to happen here. We're going in the opposite direction. States and government are withdrawing support for higher education. They are putting more of the burden on students to pay tuition. And I think that's very unfortunate.
Do you want to follow up with?
Yeah, the follow-up question is, right now, Occupy Wall Street is run as direct democracy. There are no leaders or official spokesmen of any kind. And Students for a Democratic Society here at Montclair is also run like that, as is Occupy Montclair State University. So I'd like to ask your opinion on direct democracy and also about what the role of students is in decision-making here at the school.
The role of, let me begin with